The 1950s was a huge time for American history, with sports, huge advancements in medical technology, new genres of music being created, world conflicts such as the Vietnam War beginning and the Korean War, and most importantly, the Civil Rights Movement.
Little Joe was blowing on the slide trombone. The drummer boy from Illinois would crash, boom, bang. The whole rhythm section was a purple game.
In the Boston Garden, the first NBA East-West All-Star game, the dream game for the pros. First, let's look at some of the personalities. Here's Walter Brown, president of the Boston Celtics, seated at left, talking with Maurice Podloff, head of the National Basketball Association, at right. And now close-ups of the stars. For the East, Bob Cousy of the Boston Celtics.
On March 2nd, 1951, the NBA had its first National All-Star game. On September 23, 1952, Rocky Marciano becomes the only heavyweight champion in boxing, and he is undefeated. On October 5, 1953, the New York Yankees become the first team in baseball history to win 5 consecutive World Series games in a row. And for more unfortunate news, on September 21, 1955, Bill Vukovich dies in a major auto race accident, and he becomes one of the first to die in a major auto crash during a huge race. On June 1st, 1959, the NBA adopts a policy to protest its black players from discrimination at hotels. On May 1st, 1959, the Supreme Court rules that interracial boxing matches are legally protected. This is a major step in not only boxing, but sports in general. Without this, we might not even have had interracial boxing matches today.
I wanna stick around and wanna get my kicks, let it rock. Everybody, let's rock.
On December 23, 1954, the first successful living-related kidney transplant led by Dr. Joseph Murray and Dr. David Hume happened at Brigham Hospital in Boston. A kidney was transplanted from Ronald Herrick into his identical twin, Richard. On March 26, 1953, American medical researcher Dr. Jonas Salk announced on a national radio show that he had successfully tested a vaccine against poliomyelitis, the virus that causes the crippling disease of polio. In 1953, the nuclein and the double helix structure of DNA was discovered by Watson and Crick at the University of Cambridge. Rock and roll in the 1950s. In January of 1951, Jackie Brenston and Ike Turner's Kings of Rhythm record Rocket 88. This is a chart topper and later considered by some to be the first rock and roll record released. In 1952, the Fender electric guitar was created. Radio repairman Leo Fender and musician Doc Kaufman produced the better-sounding version of the solid-body electric guitar. Their design is fairly simple and can be inexpensively produced. It becomes the first relatively cheap electric guitar on the market. In February of 1952, Sun Records is launched. Sam Phillips launches Sun Records, which will become the home for many musicians such as Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Johnny Cash. July 18th of 1953, 18-year-old Elvis Presley walks into Sun Records studio to record 2 songs for his mother as a birthday gift. The label's office manager is impressed by his vocals, thus Elvis Presley is discovered. In January of 1955, early rock legends such as Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and Chuck Berry each debut on the pop charts. February 3, 1959 is known as the day the music died. Rockers Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper are killed in a plane crash, devastating young rock and roll fans across the nation.
Every night I hope and pray a dream lover will come my way, a girl to hold in my arms and know the magic of her charm.
On January 14th, 1950, Ho Chi Minh proclaims the DRV, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. On April 25th, 1950, Truman approves NSC 68. On June 25th, 1950, North Korea crosses the 38th parallel, invading South Korea. On June 27th, 1950, with tensions rising, Truman commits U.S. naval and air support to South Korea. On December 15th, 1950, Truman declares a state of national emergency. With the Korean War finally coming to an end, on July 27, 1953, a peace treaty is signed restoring the 38th parallel to North Korea and South Korea.
Until then, I'll go to sleep and dream again.
The Civil Rights Movement is arguably the most important event that happened in the 1950s. Now, I can't go over every detail because that would make this video extremely long and extremely boring, but I'll kind of highlight some of the major events that happened. May 17th, 1954 is when the Civil Rights Movement first starts. It starts when the Supreme Court rules on the landmark case Brown v. Board of Education, unanimously agreeing that segregation in public schools is unconstitutional. Adding fuel to this newly started flame, 14-year-old Emmett Till was visiting family in Mississippi when he was kidnapped, brutally beaten, shot, and dumped in a river for allegedly whistling at a white woman. 2 white men were arrested for murder and later boast about committing the murder in a Look magazine interview. With tension rising between whites and blacks at the time, on December 1st, 1955, NAACP member Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat in the front of a colored section of a bus to a white passenger, defying the Southern custom of the time. In response to her arrest, the Montgomery black community launches a bus boycott which will last for more than a year. There were many other events during the Civil Rights Movement throughout the 50s and the 60s, but it finally came to an end in 1968.
Please don't make me